And now our panelists will introduce themselves and share their impressions with you about their time at the school. And we'll start to my far left, and we'll work our way down.
Rodney Brooks, aka Money B, Digital Underground. Before I even start, I just want to say, Kalita Smith, the girl that was interviewing Huey, she looks familiar. She's an actress now, and she played Bernie Mac's wife in the Bernie Mac show. So, you know, she knew early what she wanted to do. So, shout out to Kalita. Just it was probably the time of my life where I felt where I belonged the most, because you know it felt like everybody that I was around really did love and care for all of us. You know what I mean? And it was you know, what I tell people is I didn't know anything about the Black Panther Party, but all I knew was the Black Panther Party, because that's, you know, so I didn't know anything else. And you know, I say that like I didn't know about first grade, second grade. You know, we had group A, B, C, D, E, F, or whatever. And you know, I didn't realize we were being taught at the level we were being taught until I remember one time my grandmother, because you know my family's from Philadelphia. One year she kept me and put me in school in Philly, and then when I took the test, because they didn't know what grade I was supposed to be in, so I took the test, and they had to move me up 2 grades from my age, because I had been taught at that level. And you know, another funny thing about that, when I was in school in Philadelphia, you know, with the whole thing with Colin Kaepernick, one of the other things that I didn't know was the Pledge of Allegiance, because they didn't teach us that. So when I was being asked to say it, they thought I was playing when I said I don't know it. And I got sent home from school and crazy. I still don't know it. But, you know, it's just like, you know, you don't know what we knew until it was, you know, until we didn't have it anymore. So that's what it was.
My name is Kesha Hackett-Belcher, and I was a student at the Oakland Community Learning Center. It later was named Oakland Community School. It was how about that? Oh, yeah, that's hot. Okay, so it was a great place to be. I can tell you it was full of warmth, love. They taught you how to think and not what to think. So similar to what Ronnie experienced moving out of the area. My parents divorced, so we moved into the Glenview district, another part of Oakland. And so when I started to try to learn, they would introduce me to things like, oh, Christopher Columbus discovered America. And I was like, well, how did he discover America when there were indigenous people here? So I had a tough time in the beginning. There were notes given to me, give these to your parents. And so it was tough because I was sure of myself. I had knowledge of self. I learned about kings and queens. I learned about Native American peoples. So it was a confidence, and it's a confidence that a lot of people who attended the school have. So it's just a special, I didn't know how special it was, like you were saying, until I went elsewhere. And then some of the things they were teaching me, I was like, oh, that's just algebra. I mean, that's a quadratic equation. I mean, like, that's not, you know, so they were kind of amazed. So talking about, I mean, it was great to see the video again, but the Justice Committee taught me a lot. So you were judged by your peers, and you learned fairness, you learned how to be more diplomatic, you learned more about how to solve problems. We learned more about our culture, because when I went to a public school, they just had kind of one paragraph, like, Black people were slaves, but not all Black people were slaves. Also, there's more to our culture than slavery. So it was hard for me to kind of make that adjustment until I had a kind teacher that said, well, baby, you're being scored on what we teach you, so you just have to play the game. So that's when I first learned, okay, play the game. So my parents would always ask me, what did you learn at school? They were very comfortable with the Oakland Community School, but when I moved on, they asked, what did they teach you today? And then it would help me kind of unlearn some of the possibly damaging information that I'd gotten. So again, I want to say, knowledge is power. Knowledge of self gives you confidence that is just so enriching. I'm using it in my life now, in my professional life. It also is a piece that I wanted to share, that they taught me how to think, which I think is the most important thing. To question, to have curiosity, to travel, to understand how different people, different cultures live. And that'll give you a great sense of pride as well as just education. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Rodney Gillead, and I was a teacher at the school for 2 years, I think from 74 to 76. And let me give you a little background. My father was a Tuskegee Airman, and he learned there to be a freedom fighter, and he taught all of his sons to be freedom fighters. So when I finished my credential at San Francisco State, public schools weren't hiring. So I went to the dean, Asa Hilliard, and Asa said, Rodney, you need to go over to Oakland Community School and see what they're doing. And at that time, I was in education, so what happened to me as a black male didn't happen to black male students under me. So I went to Oakland Community School and I met Ericka, and I knew about Ericka's history. And she and I hit it off really well, and they were looking for teachers with credentials, and she hired me on the spot and then said, why don't you walk around the school and see what was happening? And I was so impressed with the fact that every class that I went into, the students were asking really advanced questions. The kind of interaction between the students was very supportive and loving, and I was really happy to join the school. And let me tell you what a day was like for me. I left my house at 6:15 in the morning. I went and picked up 2 students in San Francisco. Then I went and picked up another student in San Francisco. Then I drove over to Oakland, and I picked up 3 other students, and then I would get to school. I guess it was sometime around 8 o'clock. I'd serve the students breakfast, and then I'd go into my classroom, and not only did they serve breakfast, they served breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It had a very Southern orientation to the food and things. And the thing I remember most, and I was a early childhood teacher, I think the 5 and 6-year-olds. And the main thing that I remember is when a student said anything, the question was, did you investigate? And if they didn't investigate, then it was like, we don't want to hear from you. And that was pervasive throughout the school. The other thing that impressed me once I got in the school is there were no what I call bad black boys. You know, in my experience, there was always some black boys sitting in the principal's office waiting for their parents to take them home. That didn't exist at Oakland Community School, and all the students felt welcomed and loved and cared for. And the other thing that you did see in the film was all the students learned martial arts, which gave them a sense of centeredness, a sense of discipline, and it permeated the whole school in the way in which students conducted their affairs. And let me also say that the justice, what do you call it, the Justice Board? Justice Board. Students that didn't comply with rules, the adults didn't discipline them. They were sent to other students, and the students were in some cases much harsher than an adult would be. But again, that was the responsibility that they were teaching the school. On another note, the older boys that were in the martial arts program, I would go with them on Saturdays to meets, and they would win the meets. And it was amazing to see all these young black boys, well-disciplined, respectful of one another, just slaying all these other young students. And that was a part of the school that to me, set a whole tone around what was possible. So in the 2 years that I was there, I learned a tremendous amount of things. I was really impressed with the faculty that was there. And again, most of them were not quote unquote professional educators, but they had some very, very sound practices that in my 30 years of career, I didn't see duplicated anywhere. And again, I will say for young Black students, they learned a tremendous amount about their history, about their place in history, and fast forward, if you look at what many of those students have done to date, they're just outstanding lawyers, doctors, all kinds of people, but very, very well accomplished. So I was very proud to be a part of that school.
My name is Ericka Huggins, and before I say anything, Amar, would you stand? And Carol, would you stand? And Adrian, and any other people here, I can't see everyone, who taught or was a staff person at the Oakland Community School. I'm having so many memories. And I've seen this film a gajillion times. I'm glad that you were able to see it. But it made me cry today. Did it bring tears to your eyes? Yes. And the reason why is that our children are suffering in the old paradigm schools, wherever they are, whether they're public or private or charter. And as Rodney said, not all of us had credentials. What we did in staff meetings often was just ask, well, what would we need? What did we need when we were this age? Well, what would have helped us? And everything we did came from watching and learning from the children themselves. The third meal came that way, because there were some hungry children in our parking lot. And I didn't know they were hungry. I just said, boys, what are you doing here so late? There's no dinner at home. Mama tries, but there's no dinner. So I went in the kitchen and I said to Melvin Dickson, who I hope you get to meet if he's not in here, Conrad, can we have dinner for the children? And he said yes. And the next day we had dinner. That was how we functioned. No one told us to open Oakland Community School. We said the people need it, they asked for it, the parents asked for it, we will do it. We didn't have any grants at first. We became grant savvy. We even got, this will make you laugh, we got criminal justice money at one point. And then Donna Howell, who was the co-director of the school, who you saw in the cafeteria and talking to children about the Justice Board, was like a pillar of the school, and a grant writer, and a curriculum developer, and so was Carol. But there were people that came from everywhere, like Asa supporting you to be there. Asa supported us in the development, Asa Hilliard, Dr. Asa Hilliard, supported us in developing the school's curriculum. He was so proud of that school. By the way, I didn't say when I said it was tuition-free, community-based, child-centered, parent-friendly. Parents were never our enemies. Just think about that for a second. We had the honor of taking care of people's children every day, 5 days a week. And we mentioned the Oakland Community Learning Center, or LeVar Burton mentioned it. It was the facility in which the school sat, and I just want to explain that. in the evenings on the weekends, there were teen programs, seniors programs, adult literacy education, martial arts classes, all kinds of things going on. It was a hub in East Oakland. I believe with everything in me that this school could be replicated. That's how and why we created it. And we thought it would last. And that we would have middle school and high school so that Kesha and Ronnie and Gregory wouldn't have to be asked why they're being so impudent. That's what we wanted. And we were at the precipice of that. But maybe there's some great people out here who'll be willing to take that model and run with it. And it's been replicated in the East Bay, in San Francisco, and other places in the United States, and also outside the country. So it is still possible. I have a friend here from Europe. Would you please stand if you're still in the audience? I don't see you. Maybe he left. But people came from, he was from Denmark, and people came from all over the world to spend time at the school. It was really world-renowned. So I just wanted to say those few things, and that I'm so touched to be up here with all these great people and to remember what it was like to really serve the children. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Gayle Asali, Dickson, because that was my name, Asali, when I was in the party. And I can tell where you know me from when I run into you on the street and you call me Asali. I was like, I'm not scared. Oh no, that's one of the students. I'm just listening to all these stories is just so beautiful, and it made me actually, you started me reflecting on when I was in grammar school and how simple classes like art, there was discouragement, you know? And because I didn't draw it right, you know? And so what I really liked, I was a preschool teacher at the school. I taught the kids cognitive skills and getting them ready for his class over there. And what I liked about the school as a teacher is that it was innovative, it was creative, and it was supportive. The children learned who they were through imagination and learning their true history. And we were like their extended families. They were our extended families. And therefore, our instinctive goal was to help them fulfill their purpose and to take care of one another and to hear them and to make sure they were heard and to prepare them to properly give the gifts that they came to this world with. That's all I have.
Gregory Lewis. For those of you who saw the video, I'm the one who talks the most, and they leave me for last. Probably a wise choice.
Still do.
But my story runs similarly to Ronnie's, Kesha's. In my experience, I was born to a 17-year-old single mother in East Oakland, and the fact that raised me from 1970 until 79. See, I'm getting emotional. Actually, the video, I'll stop myself, but the video actually brought back so many emotions because I looked at how much fun we were having on the playground. And I knew how much of an inquisitive kid I was, how much I am a talker. I'm an attorney. I like to talk. And in Mr. Amar Casey's class, he gave me that forum. And fast forward in other parts of education after I left, I was shut down. I refused to be shut down because that's my personality. But it's all part of the struggle. So here I was in this organization that really showed me how to be creative, be compassionate towards my fellow girls and boys. To really, really respect ourselves and our bodies and treat each other as we would want to be treated. And within that, my paradigm of living Ronnie and I especially, we lived in a communal environment where there was not a big dividing line between school and home. We all lived in it. We went to school together in the same class, we got on the bus together, and we went back to the dorms together and stayed together, played together, lived together. And a part of that routine, a part of that community was created, the love and compassion that, Ronnie and I, we won't see each other for a decade or so. I didn't know, I was in college and I saw a video of Digital Underground. I said, I know him. He's my best friend, that's my brother, but that's how, and then whenever we come together as brothers, But I don't want to talk too much about the experience. Because I really do think that the video, the imagery, the powerful teachers that we had, Miss Ericka Huggins, Miss Asali, Dickson, this brother here taught my sister, colleague, who's not here, and it was a real, I'm not a religious man per se, but it was a very, very blessed time in my life. It really was. And without that, there's a lot of us who would not be where we are. And I think Ericka brought up a very important piece of, because I think in my head, how was this done? Why has it not been replicated? And I don't know that it's been tried. I'm not in education, so that's when I ended up going to law school instead of going to education, but I've never really examined any studies that talked about fully why this model worked, which I think was a communal model, which was a familial model, which was, you saw students holding each other accountable instead of students competing with each other to get to the top. We're all get to the top together. And so there's work to do. There's obviously a lot of work to do. And so it's really great to see all these young, medium, and old minds up here who are curious, because that's where it starts.
So I'm Kimberly Mayfield Lynch, and I chair the education department at Holy Names University. I'm a former Oakland teacher, and I'm the daughter of a former Oakland teacher. And my first connection with the Panthers that were born the same year I was born, so I'm very excited to be at this conference celebrating 50 years from the founding of the Black Panther Party and 50 years from when I was born. But it was that the Panthers had the breakfast program at my mom's school. My mom taught at Markham Elementary School in Oakland. And that work around really wrapping your arms around the community and providing children what they need really provided the footprint for the work that I do, which is to train teachers. The mission and the goal of the school was clearly for teachers to teach the students to be problem solvers, critical thinkers, and global leaders. The universal sense of ownership was just absolutely powerful and palpable and very inspiring. The fact that the teachers were from the community deeply resonates with me and the work that I do to diversify the teaching force. In fact, this work continues in the legacy of the Oakland Community School by underscoring the importance of local citizens who look like the students to become teachers. And my work is specifically to train people to work in public schools in Oakland and surrounding areas. In 2001, I became faculty in the Ed department at Holy Names University in Oakland, and its mission is to educate the underserved. The thing that separates our department from other teacher prep programs, much like who got to be a teacher at the Oakland Community School, is that we don't require people to pass the teacher tests. We believe that if you have a passion to teach, you should be accepted to an ed program, and we can help you learn how to pass those teacher tests. To this extent, that allows for our candidates to be very reflective racially and linguistically of the children we're educating them to teach. So we, like the Oakland Community School, believe in the genius of community members. In 2009, I got right in front of this issue to recruit and train local citizens to become teachers through working with a federal grant program, Transition to Teach. And that took the form of the Teach Tomorrow in Oakland program, which was birthed by community activism. The Effective Teachers for Oakland Task Force, under the leadership of then Mayor Ron Dellums, called for a comprehensive effort to remove barriers to the teaching profession for Oakland residents. So the result of TTO, which was operational in the Oakland Unified School District from 2009 to 2016, was to recruit local citizens. And we recruited about 1,000 Oaklanders to become teachers. 500 were accepted into TTO, and we were able to place 167 teachers in the Oakland Public Schools. And yeah, that's pretty amazing. This group of teachers has a 74% retention rate after 4 to 5 years, which is just about unheard of. But it's what happens when you get people from the community to teach in the community, right? The other program that I'd like to briefly mention is the Teacher Apprenticeship Program, which is located at Holy Names University. It's funded by the same grant that TTO was funded by, and it recruits in a little bit broader area, the General East Bay, to prepare teachers for the Hayward, Oakland, and West Contra Costa Unified School Districts. And what the money actually goes to are things that address the racial wealth gap. We provide candidates with test preparation and pay for it. We pay the cost of the rental of textbooks. And we provide a stipend when candidates are eligible to student teach or become intern teachers. So it's a similar approach to the wraparound approach that we saw and heard about at the Oakland Community School. And now, as the moderator, I get to ask this wonderful panel a couple of questions. And while I'm asking my questions, I'd like for you to think about questions you would like to ask the panel. And when I give the sign, I'd like for you to get in line behind one of the microphones, and I'll call on you to ask a nice, clear, concise question that will elicit a nice, clear, concise-ish response. So my first question is around the motto of the party, serve the people every day. And I'd like for the panelists to talk about more about how the students at the school and the community were beneficiaries of the motto. And whoever would like to respond first, just please start talking. Serve the people every day.
Can we get the lights up a little so we can, I don't know who does that. Sorry.
Did somebody knock on the door again? I thought I was there. Okay. Who would like to go first?
Well, I like to say that we were exposed to so much, and one of the things I remember is that there would always be people that would come visit the school, like Rosa Parks came, Willie Mays, I think Langston Hughes came to the school. James Baldwin, I'm sorry. James Baldwin. Who else? Maya Angelou, yeah. And I just remember seeing and meeting these people, but they were interested in us as well, because they had heard about the school. They wanted to see how this was being done. And, I don't think that would have happened anywhere else, and I remember it,
Yeah, and I think as far as us serving the community, the students, we were, I hate to use the word required, but we participated in the food giveaways, in the survival programs, in the clothing giveaways. We participated in the sickle cell and anemia clinics.
Right.
Participating in all these activities, I don't think we were necessarily aware, but just like Rodney said, I wasn't born into the party, but I knew that that's everything about me. It was just, this was the way it was for us. And so community giving and community service, I think, especially when it starts at that young age, can carry with you throughout your life. And another seminal piece for me is that we often went to jail to visit our comrades, to visit incarcerated Black men in America. And that was a part of our connection with two realities, really. One, we don't ever want to end up here. And two, these folks behind bars are not our enemy. You know? And that type of experience at that early age really helped us have a greater sense of community, I think.
I'll add very quickly, it was a wonderful thing to see Black men and Black women teaching us and being enthusiastic about it. The piece about giving back, we always saw that. People just taking a minute to say, how are you doing? You know, I didn't get that anywhere else. But it was wonderful to see, wonderful to feel, and I just carry it with me throughout my life, and I'm appreciative. I thank you for all of your service.
You know, when I thought about the question, you know, many people don't realize that all over the nation, they now have breakfast programs in public schools. Black Panther Party started that. Every child in the community around the school could come to the school and get breakfast or dinner. They also could participate in all the activities for free that were available. But besides the school, there was the free health clinic, there was the senior escort services, but the whole atmosphere of the school was whatever the community needed, they could access it at the school building. And that was a pretty powerful model. One of the things I do remember was that young female students, there would be a time where someone would do their hair, and in beautiful, but again, that was part of the whole atmosphere that, you know, you had to look good and to feel good. And again, that was just part of the atmosphere of the school.
I'd like to just add, you know, I'm a foodie, first of all. So what the memory for me is my little preschool, we go into the cafeteria and we sat around our table and it was like family. You know, we sit around and we ate like family, and if one child had a problem, one child did have a problem, she would stuff her food down and then throw up. And we worked to figure out the best way to get her to slow down, you know. And I mean, when I say we, I'm talking about the staff. We talk about it, the kids. They make suggestions, you know, and it worked. It worked. She slowed down and she stopped doing it. So the family is, I guess, what stands out so much in my memory.
You know, something just came to mind because Asali taught the students that eventually came to my classroom, and my students were about 5 or 6 years old. And I was amazed that all of my students at 5 and 6 could read. And that was because of her work, all right? And it was just amazing to me. Just amazing to me what you could do with 5 and 6-year-olds who could read.
And I want to say the Black Panther Party had so many members who are artists. Asali is a star in terms of art. And she taught the children from an artist's perspective. So she could say more about that herself, but it was delightful to watch. Yes. And when she heard you say that, Rodney, she said, I forgot. But we did, because we were not there for a paycheck. Have you ever done something that didn't have a paycheck attached to it? Oh, great. You did because your heart led you to do it. You want to know something? For years, I was the director of Oakland Community School, and I was collecting a welfare check because I didn't want to take any money from the school, nor was there any money for me, but that didn't stop me. And then we got grant savvy, and we got all of the grants, almost all of them we wrote, except that when it said, and you will teach like this, or there's this that you must do first, or no, don't teach this, we said, no, thank you, bye. So, so it was a beautiful place for me. I'm repeating what everyone has said. I learned so much from the children. And I have so many stories I could share, many of them hilarious. But I'd like to share a poignant story with you from Serve the People, Body and Soul is what comes to my mind, which is also a motto. And the motto for the school, which Asali turned into a logo, is the world is a child's classroom. As you think about the school, I'll tell the story later, but as you think about the school, think, what did I know about the Black Panther Party before today, and what do I know now? And what can I do with what I know? So, thank you. Serve the people, body and soul.
You know, something Ericka just said reminded me of why I left the school, because they didn't pay.
But, you know, sitting up here, this is, I've been working, I'm part of the host committee, and so I've been working on putting this conference together along with a panel, a wonderful group of people, comrades. And so I haven't had a lot of time to reflect. And so sitting up here and listening, I'm like, yeah, I remember teaching them through the art, and we would be on the floor and painting, and it'd be a mess, and we'd be drawing and what have you. And just the joy, the feeling that I had inside of me that they were enjoying themselves making a mess. No, they weren't making a mess. You know, but painting and drawing and expressing themselves through art. And I'll tell you one story. It was, I guess I was in my early 30s a couple of years ago. And I was in my early 30s. I'd left the party. And there was a parent there that, Jackie Weist, I think her name was. Yes. Yeah, Guy's mother. And I ran into her, and she told me that her son, Guy, was over in England as an artist. And I was, you know, I don't know if I had anything to do with it or not, but that just made me feel so good inside. And just sitting up here listening to everybody, you know, in teaching them through the art, it was just so much joy to see them learning through it.
Okay, now I'd like to revisit something that just about everyone has mentioned, which was that at the school, students were taught how to think, not what to think. And I'd like for you to share your reflections on some key moments where you remember that happening specifically, teaching students how to think not what to think.
Well, one thing comes to mind, and it's almost the counter of what you're talking about, but it's one thing that really stands out to me. Right around the time I think we were 8 or 9, we had to start taking, I think they were called the CTBS tests. So there was something, big testing thing, and we had never really had to do this kind of testing. So I remember the number 2 pencils we got, which were great. We were excited about the number 2
They
pencils.
were standardized.
So it was our first time doing standardized tests, and in relation to what you're saying, it was the first time where I realized I was trying to be taught what to think instead of how to think, because I had to fill in the bubbles. I had to have the right answer. There could be no like, oh, well, maybe it's magenta. You know, there was no avenue for that. And you're taking these standardized tests. That really, our benefit within the school was that we were able to think critically within this dynamic. And frankly, the teachers trained us, and we had some real preparation because there was some importance that was attached to the standards, probably with funding and other things. And we ended up doing really, really, really well from what I recall. And but that was that seminal moment of that transition from this free level of talk where you saw me in Amar's class, and I'm talking about Geronimo and Apache getting his throat slit off, and hand gestures in a way that maybe another teacher might see as a threat, like calm down, Gregory. So there were so many. That was the counter to all the other moments before when we were really, really just taught to be creative with our thought process, analytical as well.
I can say for me, and again, I'm teaching 5- and 6-year-old students, and I was co-teaching with a member of the party, and whenever we presented any kind of lesson, we always went to several students and asked them, what do you think? What do you think of what they just said? And it was always encouraging all students to have a voice, no matter what we were talking about. And again, as they grew in the school, that permeated all of the classes, that students were expected to have an opinion.
I'll add one other thing. I had to write a note because I'm in my 40s now. I can't remember like I used to. I remember doing double dutch, and that was a thing we loved to do. And we were actually reciting the order of operations. So, you know, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, right? So we were doing double dutch, you know, I'm waiting to come in. Okay, then when you go in, you go for it. Please excuse my dear, you know. So it was just, I brought back memories, sorry. But it was just, we learned without knowing that we were learning. So that's what the beautiful thing was. So again, when I transitioned to public schools or other types of public schools, we'll say, and I knew a lot of this stuff, and I felt kind of out of place in a way. And then another thing that happened as well was I would raise my hand, and I know other kids would kind of giggle because I guess they didn't really ask a lot of questions. So I didn't care because I really wanted to know. I really wanted to probe. I really wanted to challenge and really make sure I understood what was going on. So again, I mean, this was a great place to be, all the love, support, seeing people who look like you, teaching you, especially African-American men as well. It was a beautiful place to be. So.
So my last question is, based on your experiences at the school, what do you think about how education should be right now in the 21st century for African American and poor students? Start getting in line over here. Yeah, that's a question to the panel as we give people in the audience time to get to the mic.
All right, well, I think as truly, like they were saying, like what we've been talking about. And with people teaching teachers like you, where cultural competence is not a fad, a box to check. It is part of the curriculum. And segue, same thing for the police. Retraining, re-education, and teaching from the heart. That hasn't been said like this, but for Gregory and Ronnie to be here talking as they are, and for some of the teachers who are in the audience who are men, we were requested to teach from the heart. I think that if a man showed up at Oakland Community School who was being ultra masculine in some way, it would have stood out. Like, it would have been strange. The children would have come to my office, Ericka, so-and-so.
Crazy.
And we worked with all of these old ideas as a staff. We even one day, I remember distinctly a conversation about skin color. I'm not talking about white people and African American or Latino people or the brown people. I'm talking about shades of color that from enslavement forward have had us trapped and unkind to one another. And so the staff, we didn't bring that to the children. The staff had to work that through because they would have brought that to the children. So how should education be? It should be humane. It should be from the standpoint that all beings are interconnected. And as Huey said in that sweet interview with Kalita, that if somebody tells you they have all the answers, they're not telling the truth. And one of the things we did at Oakland Community School is if a child had a question and we didn't have the answer, we'd say, well, we'll go find out. Because we knew we didn't know everything. It was an impossibility with what we had been given. And we did as often as we could. And now there are models of schooling, Sudbury being one of them, with individual child-based learning. But we didn't have a name for it. It was just so-and-so need to know how to do calligraphy. Black Panther, child-based learning. Intercommunalism, which was the ideology that Huey coined. So I hope that makes sense. What I said is like, it's not okay that the current teacher pool is primarily, this is statistical, I don't have the exact numbers today, but the current teacher pool in Oakland is primarily European American women. So, and it's fine. And people do need to see themselves and hear themselves. I would also say that it's important for education, the paradigm shifts to the teachers to be at least bilingual and to recognize that we have multilingual classrooms.
You know, when I reflected on the question, I go back to my training, and we were reading books like Hello Freire's Pedagogy de Presse,
Yes.
Seth McClark's biography about her experience with the Freedom Schools in the South. And the best I can characterize it is liberation education and freeing the human spirit to fulfill its destiny, as opposed to what seems to be happening pervasively in our education system, is the assumption that the student is an empty vessel and you got to fill them up with all of this facts and information that really doesn't lead them to their own destiny. So part of what I see as an outcome is that the student finds their voice and their mission in the context of schooling so that they can go forward and, well, hopefully help liberate other people. But it's about liberating the human spirit.
Thank you. Okay, we will go to this mic for the first question. Please tell us your name.
Okay, my name is Imani Bazell. My brother is one of the coordinators here. I don't know if he's here, Barry.
Yeah, raise your, yeah,
It's Barry.
that's Barry.
So I come from up there. And I used to work for the People's Free Health Clinic in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And my little sister was in such trouble, Barry went back to Milwaukee and got her to take her to the school. When I was in college. But, and I was sitting there the whole time saying, Imani, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. Okay, I shouldn't have said that because now I feel like crying. Okay, what I didn't hear you all say that I think needs to be said out loud, because I think a lot of people don't realize, is there's a big widespread movement right now across the country, the community schools movement.
Yes.
And as I read it, and as I understand it, and as I'm trying to make it a reality in the city I live in, it is absolutely based on the school that you all founded. So it's really, really important. Are there people here who are part of the community schools movement? Not really? Because the Oakland Unified School District is supposed to be based on the community schools model. And I noticed none of you all said anything about the Oakland Unified School District other than who teaches there. So I'm really nervous and upset about that. But I guess I just want to say, I came here from Illinois, one, because I needed to be a part of this and needed to be with you all. Equally, I came and wish that this thing on education was the whole 4 days. Our children are hurting so badly. And it's because the adults in their lives are hurting so badly. And I heard you all say that in so many words. And so I'm shaking and I'm nervous and I'm anxious right now because I'm afraid that I'm going to leave and I'm not going to know how to find these people because we have to be in touch with each other. Our kids are dying. And so I hope there's some sign up, some way we can come back together or
Well,
something.
you got a notebook or a napkin in your purse or
Well,
something?
I can certainly do that myself, but I think other people in here want that too. And our kids are literally dying, and it would be, it feels almost criminal if we leave today or certainly leave by Sunday and we don't know how to find each other and don't talk about or figure out or make plans.
What a sweetheart.
But what it needs to move forward. Maybe that's a question. I don't know. I just had to say out loud.
Well, I think the question is.
Here's 2 pieces of paper, and you can start and sign
But the question is, and we can start with the sign-up sheet, is how do we continue to build community? How do we continue to build community? This is a start. You have a voice, you voiced it, and we shared it.
Right.
Well, where do we go from here?
That's the theme of the conference. Where do we go?
We start building community now. Anyone who wants it. That's why we're here.
Yeah. So thank you, Imani, and you can get all of, I can't speak for everybody up here, but
All of our information, and then we'll pass
yeah,
it.
and then, Kimberly? Thank you, Imani.
Thank you. We'll go to this mic.
I'd like to just ask all my questions and sit down.
Tell us your name.
I'm Bill Johnson, and I wanted to know how do you get space initially? There's costs associated with that, and those costs are very high right now. So What would you say about space, and what are the priorities for continuing and keeping schools open in cases like OCS?
Well, so a nonprofit educational corporation was created called Educational Opportunities Corporation, EOC. And then actually Huey and probably others had friends who helped us because, did you say your name is Phil?
Yes.
Okay, so Phil, you know that people of color can't always get loans, right?
Yes.
And then it was really that way, more so that way. So a group of friends of the Panthers, and I don't mean that to sound coded, they were white and middle class, and they really were our friends, sussed out a good building, and then it was bombed. And we entered it and stayed there. The school closed until 1982. Your second question, though, I don't know how to answer it without taking a long time. Your second question was about how do we do this, continue schools that start like Oakland Community School, is that correct? And how do we continue? I don't have a ready answer for it. I have some answers. But there are, as Imani pointed out, there are people doing it right now.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who wants to say something, who's here, who wants to say something about how the building itself got bought? It was an old church building. And right now, if you go by, oh, this is important for me to say. Right now, if you go by at 6118 International Boulevard, you'll see that the Men of Valor are there. And do you want to hear something? The Men of Valor, some of you may know about it, they make housing available to men specifically who are re-entering from prison, having formerly incarcerated men, and also men who are homeless, and men who are seeking a better way in life through more sound employment. And so I went there a few weeks ago, and one of the pastors there, when I introduced myself, said that every now and again a man will come through and he'll say, I used to go here for school. And then his eyes will fill with tears. So the school had a profound impact that I'm continuing to understand that while we were doing all this, I don't think we were like ticking off, oh, aren't we great? We did this. We were just constantly on to the next thing. So the reason why the school ended, though, I can say that clearly, is because the Black Panther Party ended.
And just a quick piggyback on Ericka's point from the kids' perspective, when you're talking about investing in a plot of land for a school, for us, this was an oasis. We had a huge yard, we had a science building, we had a 450-room auditorium. I mean, it was a wise investment. So I think at the end of the day, that's also something to consider when you're thinking about purchasing that.
Yeah, it was a grandmother who came to Huey and said, we need a dedicated school site. Because before that, we had a huge house in the Fruit Vale. And of course, by that time also, the people from the community were wanting their children in the school. We always had a waiting list, Phil, with unborn children on it. This is how much people would come to our offices and cry, beg to have their children in the school. Because they knew what we were doing.
Well, should we before me?
Sorry. My name is Jasmine Howard. The erasure or marginalization of women from the collective memory of the Panthers has been well discussed. What did leadership by women look like in the school and other facets of the party, and how did that leadership influence female students? So So those role models.
Okay, I'll start. So the influence it had on me, it was great. I'm a strong Black woman, you know. I mean, because of women like Ericka Huggins, Donna Howell. I mean, there were so many teachers who showed me the way. They walked the talk. I mean, there was an incident. I'll be brief. But there was an incident where we had a substitute teacher, and it was an after-school kind of math program. And we would say after school happened to be, I think, all women, all girls, and we would just go over more in-depth math. And it was a substitute teacher, and he actually made us uncomfortable by just the way he looked at us and just his mannerisms, and we didn't feel comfortable. So a few of us went to Ericka Huggins' office and told her, and we never saw him again. And so I don't know if I ever told you how much that impacted us. I mean, he was gone, but it was just something about him that made us uncomfortable. So I said that quick story to explain that we felt safe, we felt protected. You know, I should have thanked you for that, but long ago. But it's just the strong women making things happen. Miss Donna Howell didn't take any mess. She was a warm individual, but if you did something, she would let you know. But she would explain, okay, this is the reason why you're being punished, you know. And so it really let me see that women can be in power. Women can be managers and directing a school. It also showed me another side that men can be compassionate. Yes. Like, for example, Mr. James Mott, one of my teachers, wow, I mean, he just took the time with me. He just took time. I was humming some jazz tune, and he was like, what you know about that? What you know about Coltrane? You know, and so it was just like these men I consider kind of uncles. And I felt safe and protected. So from a student's perspective, it was just a great place to be. And I didn't know how special it was until I went elsewhere.
And I think it was important for the boys as well to see women in leadership roles. Because a lot of men can't deal with women in leadership roles, but we were raised seeing that, so it was normal for me, you know? Carol?
Yes.
Oh yeah, my grandma.
I also want to mention that the men at the school were forced to be respectful of the women in the school, and that was demonstrated to young ladies that that's what they should expect from men in their life.
Thank you for your question.
Hello, my name is Ross Pusey, co-founder of Alliance for Black and Brown Educators. Really quick, we started the program because we noticed that Black and Brown students were some of the highest students entering into the educational program field, also the highest to drop out, and also the highest to leave after 2 years. And so we provide social emotional support for them to make it through, and also to get into the schools that have the best practices so that they don't burn out. We're actually proud to have some of our first cohort students here representing Stanford STEP here as well. The question that I have, thank you. They're wonderful, they're absolutely amazing. But the question that I have is something that we've been pondering and having a hard time to articulate, and maybe it might take you guys a little bit of time to think of it too. But how can we articulate academically, something you can put on a resume, the specific skills that are specific to Black and Brown educators coming from the community, and how we can portray that when we're being interviewed, and how we can articulate it in a way that has substance and value in the field of education, instead of just saying, we feel the community or we love the community, but we say, I have these skills because I'm from the community.
Well, you had a number of questions in there.
How would you articulate it to be used in the process of applications, getting positions, applying for positions, in that nature?
How would we articulate what we did, or how would you?
The skills derived from coming from Black and Brown communities, being raised in them, being around them every single day, living there? What specific skills are we garnering from that experience?
From our own lived experience.
Yes. Yes.
You can talk about lived experience. It's real and very important, because the scholars and academicians can talk from existing scholarship. And what you are saying is that in addition, in tandem with lived experience is important. That is what Kesha meant when she said they were great teachers and they look like me and I could see myself in them. That's not foreign to many people these days. And so you can talk about that. You can also talk about the benefit of the critical thinking skills that come from being raised in Black and brown communities. What are they? I'll give you an example. There used to be a little store down the street from the Oakland Community School. Remember that little corner store? And we found out about this corner store because they got one of the guys in there would give the children free candy if they said, Jesus is Lord. I found out about that, and I was, donuts, that's right, thank you, Zachary. I was like, what? Wait, you guys did that? So we curtailed all of that, but I did, and it's not that what the man was asking the children to say was unlawful or something. It's just that let them come to their own informed decision about religion. And can I bring the children down so they can learn some math skills by buying things and little ones, little children, and giving the correct amount of money and getting back the correct amount of change. This is something that your grandmother or your auntie will teach you when she sends you to the store to get a carton of milk. But we were doing it very intentionally, using something already in the community. These things can be talked about. So first, what we have to do to develop a list of skills in this way is break through our socialization about what is appropriate, what somebody else needs to hear, and go with what is truthful, and then adjust the language. We learned this when we started grant writing at Oakland Community School, because we refused to make the school something that it wasn't. Is that helpful?
It's extremely helpful. The lived experience, the critical thinking skills, and definitely the staying truthful, and then figuring out how to articulate the language.
And if you keep articulating it, there will be people who will flock to you. There will be people who will go away, but people will flock to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your work.
Additionally to that, there's a policy implication in your question, which is what makes someone qualified to teach. And it bears a level of activism with contacting like the Commission on Teacher Credentialing and saying that this lived experience is just as valuable as like passing a standardized test. So if you walk in speaking the language that like 1 million California public school kids speak, that is as valuable as like passing the CSAT. So it's both and. It's writing to the state saying, you know, this is what makes someone qualified for California, and it's based in our lived experience.
I just also want to say, I believe one of your students helped to co-found our organization as well.
Who was that?
Miss Anna Banderas.
Yes, yes. From Holy Names University. Right on. Okay, we'll go here.
All right. Hello, my name is Aquila Lewis, and I was a volunteer with the Commemoration Committee for the Black Panther Party and the Little Bobby Hutton Literacy Campaign. Melvin Dickson, they mentioned him earlier.
Yes.
He is so bomb. You guys need to get a chance to meet him. He's kind of like a second dad to me. Miss Gayle, please definitely let him know how grateful and truly grateful I am to have met him on UC Berkeley campus when I was going through a whole lot of different things, and there was a lot of chaos at the campus because of 9/11. And racial tensions, so many different things.
On the
Melvin,
UC Berkeley campus?
And then I was dealing with foreclosures and other things from the past was coming up and I had to deal with it. And I stopped the literacy program and the commemoration committee for Black Panther Party. And now the question I have for you is, how did you continue sustaining yourselves and continue to be there for the community when we have all these different things happening? And so that's one thing. And then the other thing, I'm also a part of the Sideshow Radio and After Hours Radio, and I'm also a spoken word artist, and I got a chance to work with some children. Girl Tech is a program, they're all about technology, the STEM. And I got a chance to incorporate my knowledge of the spoken word and literacy, and then they taught me about technology. That was so cool. 4th grade and 5th grade young girls. And then incorporating music. Have we tapped into what we need to, or do we need to go further to reach the illiteracy in the community? That's the second question. First question is, how did you sustain yourself? And then have we tapped into what we need to help those who are illiterate? I'm a journalist, y'all.
Well, no. I don't want to pass the buck. You've asked a very important question, the first one. And I was incarcerated for 2 years. I was a member of the Black Panther Party. That often happened. And I can't tell you the entire story because it would take a while. But what I can say is that just before I was incarcerated, within 3 months before I was incarcerated, my daughter was born and my husband was killed. And so by the time I got to Niantic Prison for Women in Connecticut, my heart felt like shattered glass. And I knew that I couldn't sustain anything, much less be there and stay alive on the inside if I didn't do something. And so I asked Charlie Gary, who was the party's lawyer, to bring me a book on yoga. I don't even know today why I asked him to do that, but I'm glad I did. And he Charlie Gary, who would do a headstand every day before he went into the courtroom, found a wonderful book for me. But what is important about this little book, it was small, paperback, is that the woman who wrote it said, and after you've done your stretches, sit quietly for meditation. It was meditation that saved my ass. I felt free after a little while. I felt free in that prison cell. And when I was moved to solitary confinement, I felt even more free. Because nothing external to me could take this feeling of freedom away. And so I still do meditate every day. And I'm so grateful when I wake up in the morning. I think all the party members in the room are grateful just to be working in the morning. And yes, I'm alive. Anyway, I'm laughing, but it wasn't laughable then. So it sustains me. It sustained me then, it sustained me now, because it is my own. It's not an external something that somebody has told me I must do, I know what it does for me. It keeps me clear and sane in the midst of the most amazing challenge. And they still come. I'm not in there's no more Black Panther Party, but life is full of challenges, as you pointed out. And this helped me the other day when I read the story of Corinne Gaines. I had to stop and notice my breath and sit. That's the only thing that got me past it. That a police officer would shoot and kill her with her 5-year-old in her arms. And shoot him. Didn't kill him, killed his mommy, and wounded him. And not only did I sit quietly, but I said, I guess you could call it a prayer, but it was more like I talked to him. May your life be free from any further harm. May you find healing and peace. So I think that each of us can do something. Maybe people don't want to meditate, but there is something that we can do to keep ourselves healthy. And your question is so powerful because activists are not trained to take self-care. Nor are teachers, by the way. So I just wanted to answer the first question. The second one, someone else can answer. Thank you very much.